All right, boys, especially you, Danny boy. I've jumped on the bandwagon with you. I've got myself some nut care. I've got the wood nut care, which is the powder. I've got the bear nuts, which is our cream that we've spoken about. And I've got the sugar nuts, which is all about exfoliating the plums. And I tell you what, the plums have never felt better, and it's not just me that's appreciating it, I can tell you that much. That's why Any Given Sunday is very happy to be supported by Nut Care, Australia's #1 grooming brand. Nut Care has been voted recently by Men's Health as the #1 bare nuts pubic hair removal cream. It's revolutionising the male grooming. This is as smooth as my plums are feeling right now, I can tell you that much. As proud supporters of Any Given Sunday, Nut Care is offering our listeners 10% off their first order with the promotional code Any Given Sunday at the checkout, and the discount will be applied. Nut Care is essential grooming for men.
We've spent a lot of time together in the past couple of days, and I can tell you, your plums are much smoother than that was.
They are very sweet plums, though. They're sweet. Everyone loves a little sweet plum.
Yeah, and they're only little.
Brown 45! Brown 45! Hot, 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 hot!
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the #1 podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, the Gridiron Australia headquarters over in Winnipeg. We're definitely #1 over in Winnipeg with the Blue Bombers now after our recent episode. Joining us as always, down in his basement in the unknown abyss is it's TV24 at Tim Carty AGSAU. How are you, mate? I get that mixed up too much.
You'll learn it one of these days. You obviously don't tweet me very much, which is a little bit disappointing, but we might have unearthed a new nickname for you, maybe a little sweet plum.
Oh,
sweet plums?
Junior plums. Plums?
Sweet plum.
Yeah. They are extremely smooth, and the sugar nuts are incredible. You should get around the sugar nuts. Natural, detoxifying, and antibacterial, which good for me.
All big ticks.
Yeah. As well as our junior boy turned senior boy going into season #2. So I'm definitely saying that you're senior now. At Danny Webb, AGSAU. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. I've just been obviously using the Twitter as much as possible, and the Jets fans, they hate me again. So obviously I'm doing something right.
Everything's right in the world.
Yeah, everything's bad. Oh, man. Have I caught some shade?
Why? What have you done? Anything in particular that they're getting up and about?
No, I just think it's the Jets fans. Now they see us, and most of it was for being Australian, which is crazy. But if they don't think that we don't have NFL in Australia...
We actually copped a bit of shade from over in America, which was odd. Yeah. It was a very odd shade too, saying that we don't know the game. But, we should have directed him towards one of our podcasts and he would have known.
How dare we talk about their game?
We did. So you mentioned, Danny, that we have spent a few days together. Just quickly, in your own words, Danny, and then we'll get a little bit from you too, Carts. We've been at the Gridiron Australia search for the next NFL superstar. What was that all about? I'm wearing the shirt here. What was it all about, Danny, and how'd we go?
So if people haven't heard, jump back and watch one of the previous episodes. We've spoken to Wade Kelly and a couple others about the search. And the search was to try and find a high school prospect kid to send over to the States. So they're going to go around to 7 spots around Australia, find the top 10 of those, then they're going to have a final combine, and then the top 10 of that is going to get trips to the States to get put in front of high schools, college scouts. So it's an incredible opportunity. Yeah. And the thing that shocked me the most, obviously we'll go in there and we know how big the game is here and how many people love it, but the talent, the raw talent of some of these kids that were there was honestly, it was mind-blowing. And it was very, very good to see in person. It's completely different to watching film.
Absolutely. Carts, what was your favourite part of yesterday?
Yeah, so we spent the day out in Croydon, out at Ranger Field, the Croydon Rangers home ground out there. Best part of the day for me was just being able to get out and meet people in person. And as Danny said, the amazing range of talent there of the young guys coming through and the size of some of the lads.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, oh boy. And you, as a tall man, you were quite impressed with some of the size of some of the boys, but just getting around, meeting people. We met parents of some guys that are just signed up to some schools in Florida that we're going to be having a chat to. So shout out to the boys there. But yeah, great day, just milling around. Obviously, the day is heavily supported by Jesse Williams. He's all about giving back and giving opportunities to kids at a younger age. His big push is that, you know, a lot of kids might not know of these avenues to go through college, get an education, and get sponsored, like, you know, get the scholarship to do it, get paid to do it, and go play football. So he's really a big driving force behind it. And it's only going to gather momentum. So yeah, we're at the Melbourne leg yesterday. That was leg 2. They're off to Canberra, I believe, tomorrow. Then Sydney, Perth, Adelaide. So yeah, huge.
And I agree. Like, just to get around and actually meet the people such as Jesse, you know, Coach Russ, Coach Ray Stowers from over in Utah, and then chilling with the Pro Kick boys for a fair while. They were elite too.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, the level of coaching that they're getting around for these kids is next level. Like, it's elite level coaching. So exposing them at this younger high school age to sort of see where the standard is and be like, you know, this is the sort of testing that you go through. This is the level of coaching that you get. These are the standards that you got to meet. It's awesome for them to see it at that younger age and be like, oh yeah, like, all right, this is what I got to do. I got to go work my butt off. And because, you know, you're going up against hundreds of thousands of high school kids over in the States. So, you know, you got to put yourself out there and make yourself shine.
And that's what the coaches were saying. Like, these high school kids in the state, they've played the game their whole life. They've played it since Pee-wee. So the fact that we've got good enough raw talent that we're sending people over there to be able to compete with these kids, or people might have only played the game for a couple of years. So the younger that people get involved in the sport, the better it's going to be for them long term, for their futures.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, for those who are interested, keep your eye out. If you are in Canberra, Western Sydney, Adelaide and Perth, get around it.
There's two stops in Sydney, yeah. They've broken Sydney into 2, Western and then Sydney.
And then normal Sydney, yeah. Get around it. Like, there was kids that first-timers, so, and like you said, just the raw talent. They saw some speed.
Any
some
ability. And a cool thing to see as well, not just all kickers, which sort of traditionally we've had a lot of the Aussies going over to the college system, being kickers and like through the great work of Pro Kick and everything like that, but seeing a lot of skill positions, a lot of big O-linemen, big defensive linemen, some really talented quarterbacks getting around. Like, so yeah, it was
a couple of good wide receivers, some good mittens out there. We're on to week 2 of our previews. So we've gone from the NFC South last week. Had some very interesting notes from people that weren't agreeing with what we were saying overall, which is good. That's what we want, a bit of banter, a bit of discussion.
Fantastic.
But we've gone to the other side. We've gone AFC South this time. We're going to start off with you, Cardi. What have you got for us, mate?
I haven't actually heard any of this feedback, so
it comes straight to me. It's good.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I sit up all night crying. I swear I knew who he was.
You can filter out the mean stuff. That's all.
Yeah, I'm the filter, which is shit for me. But
so we got creative. We did the NFC South, so we thought, all right, let's flip it over to the AFC South. So I'm just going to go through a bit of a rundown of how the teams went last year, and we'll start off with the Jags because they took out the division. They finished off the year with the record of 9-8. First time they've taken out the division since 2017, I believe. And under Doug Peterson, first year of Doug Peterson, they got rid of Urban Meyer. It was just an absolute train wreck under him. And I think under Doug, Trevor Lawrence has been able to flourish, as we saw. They went on a 5-game winning streak towards the back half of the year, and they beat the Titans in that last game to clinch the AFC South and grab a playoffs berth, and then they went on to win a playoff game. So they beat the help me out. It was the
Chargers. They were 17 down at halftime and come back.
That's right.
It was incredible.
It's 27. Wasn't it 27 at one point?
Huge comeback.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, in that game, but it was more. What was it? 27. Yeah, you're right. In the wildcard round, it was a 27-point deficit, third largest comeback postseason history. So huge for them. And I think another cool stat I saw, they're the only second team to open a season with a record of 4-8 and then reach the postseason, which was done by the Chargers in 2008. So another cool little stat. But they were obviously the major story of the AFC South, just how they were able to turn it around. People did not expect big things from them, and then to come out, take out the division, and then go on and win a playoff game too. Huge for Trevor Lawrence's development and the team as a whole. So people expecting big things for them next year for sure.
Yeah, and then went on to it was only a touchdown they lost to the Chiefs, who obviously we all know went on to win the Super Bowl. So big for them. Yeah. I'm covering the ins and outs, but before we do that, it is remiss of me to mention the first half of our preview is brought to you by C2C Rare Threads. head to their website, CGC Red Threads. Any given Sunday is the code for 10% off. They have some awesome Jordan shoes, which I'm going to look at and get myself a pair because I'm getting, as you boys know, my threads suck. So
we like to say
they do have some awesome quality gear.
Fashionably challenged, and they're great supporters of us, like on socials and everything like that. So get around them, support them. They got some really good kits. So
So the ins and outs. So as you said, the biggest in I reckon last year for the Jags was the coach, but this year they've drafted pretty well. So I've got the top 3 draft picks from every team. So the Jags, their first draft pick was a big offensive tackle. Harrison, he went with number 27 pick. The second pick was a tight end, Brendan Strange, at 61. And then the running back, which I think this kid's going to make some big waves, is Tank Bigsby. He went at number 88. So remember the name Tank Bigsby. They also were able to re-sign a few of their players. Safety Wingard, and the 2 cornerbacks, Campbell and Hedren. Quarterback CJ Beathard. They've also brought in a couple of players too, but nothing really standing out. Oh, actually, one of the big boys we've got to mention, Adam Gotsis, the big Aussie. He's re-signed with them, so that's huge. And they franchise tagged Evan Ingram, the big tight end. So he had a massive year last year, Evan. So big for him. But yeah, that's pretty much. They lost a couple. Marvin Jones, he's looks like moving on, and could be big if they can keep him. That'll be huge. The wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr., but looks like he might be moving on. They did a couple of players they have lost again, not huge names. Juwan Taylor, he's gone over to the Kansas City Chiefs, probably the biggest name there that they've lost.
Sorry, I was reading some notes. Sorry, did you mention Ridley?
That's what I was about to say. Also need to mention Ridley, because obviously he's come back from his indefinite suspension after his little gambling incident.
Gambling mishap.
Yeah, big mishap. And we'll talk about more gambling mishaps as this episode goes on, because the league is getting they're catching a lot of people at the moment, that's for sure. Calvin Ridley, huge. He's coming. He's going to be wearing number 0, which I can't wait to see on an NFL jersey, because I reckon it's going to look sick, especially in that teal. Would we say teal of the Jags? It's going to look absolutely fire. And I think like having Ridley to a team that performed relatively well last year, like the first half of the year, like you said, Cast, they did struggle going 4-8. But as soon as that bye game hit, and then Trevor Lawrence really settled under Coach Doug, and actually started playing his way, they started winning. So I think the Jags are probably, like, with the addition of Ridley, they're just going to keep on heading up, personally, in my opinion.
No, totally agree. I was going to say too, Macca, while you're talking about draftees, it's only the second time since 2007 that the Jags haven't had a pick in the top 10. So they're not necessarily loading up with that real high-end talent from the draft this time. They're sort of consolidating the list a little bit this year. Look to build on the success and development that they've had 2022 season.
And their opening
for sure.
game.
Absolutely. I think my internet's been playing up because I lost a fair bit of that. So do you want to take over a bit, Card? Where are we up to?
We were mentioning Calvin Ridley.
Yes, I missed him, did I?
We just went into Ridley, and
that is a big name to miss. He is he's not an in because he is an in, but he wasn't there last year, so he could be huge for Trevor going forward.
Isn't that technically what makes him an in? He wasn't there last year.
He was in last year, but he just didn't play because he was unfortunately sprung. But you are right; that does make him an in. So. Danny, do you have their first week and their schedule?
Yeah, so the first week is actually a divisional game. They got the Colts, which we're going to go into the Colts in a little bit, so I probably don't need to go too deep into this, but I feel like that's going to be a nice way to start the season for them, because then after that, they've got a few tough games. Like, they've obviously got to play the Chiefs, which is their, who they lost to in the playoffs. And then goes like Texans, Falcons, Bills, Colts. Like, they don't have the easiest looking schedule. Like, they're going to play the Bengals, the Ravens in there, and the 49ers. So they've got actually quite a tough schedule. Plus, the division, I think, is going to be relatively tight, at least at the top end.
You with us, Thomas?
I cannot hear Danny, so Cards, keep leading the way.
All right, Danny's done his rap there. So
Perfect. So do you need my my prediction, or are we doing that after, you reckon?
we'll do that at the end.
All right, sweet. So we're going to move on. Cards, what's our second team?
We'll move on to the Titans. They've come run up in the division. They finished off with a 7-10 record. So they actually started off the year pretty well, and we're on track to probably take out the division. And they're sitting at 7-3, and then they just absolutely capitulated and went on a 7-game losing streak. Excuse me. So they were pretty hampered by injuries. Like, it really tested the depth of their list. They ended up with a league high 23 players landing on injury reserve through the end of the season. So including like Tannehill, the quarterback, Harold Landry, and Taylor Lewan. So it just made it tough for them. Obviously, Derrick Henry, shining light, sort of kept them in games, kept them pretty much was their whole offense a lot of the time. Ended the year with a league high. What did he do? 349 carries. There's a little stat there. I can't remember the stat, but they weren't throwing the ball much because of how depleted they were. And Derrick Henry was their go-to on offense. Sorry, go ahead.
They had Jacob Dobbs leading the way.
Exactly.
From the pigskin, which I don't think anyone was putting a heap of faith in him.
Signed him from the Lions practice squad.
Yeah, so obviously them not having that much faith in him, they're going to run a lot of their offense through Derrick Henry. And why wouldn't you? He's like an unstoppable force.
Yeah, mate, he's absolutely elite, but you need that passing game to complement your running game to complement your passing game. So it just made it hard for him.
And their final game that they did have was essentially competing for that divisional title because it was against the Jags, and they were one incomplete pass that ended up getting ruled a fumble away from actually taking away that game, which shows that their squad did have a little bit of depth that they could do all that with Dobbs at the helm.
Yeah, and that was one of the Jags, I think, 5 fourth quarter comeback games for the year. So super clutch for them to do it in their last game of the season to win the division, but then pretty disappointing for the Titans on the other end of it. They ended up firing their GM, John Robinson, who he sort of caused a bit of controversy when he traded AJ Brown to your Eagles, Danny Boy, during the draft last year. And you could see Vrabel, the coach, I think people have lip ready, but he's like, what the fuck? Or, whatever. He was he was visibly upset, which fair enough. You're trading away an elite player in Brown like that. So, and obviously not consulting with Vrabel or anything like that. So,
and you look onto what Brown actually did with the Eagles. Brown is a huge reason the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl. Absolutely huge. A cornerstone of the team.
Yeah, exactly right. So, no wonder they were pretty pissed off when he did that. Thomas.
Yes, on to me. Like I said, I can only hear you, Cats. This is a very interesting conversation for me, but I'll run through.
You can see if Danny's talking or not. So.
Yeah, I can. I'll just run through when you tell me to run through. So their ins, they had a couple of big ins from the draft. So they've got a big offensive tackle, Peter Skoronski. He got him at number 11. Then, I don't know if you boys had mentioned, they're not controversial, but an interesting in they did get was Will Levis at their second pick at number 33. And then also their third pick was at 81. He's a running back, IJ Spears. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes, but Will Levis is definitely the biggest, most interesting pickup of that three, I think. Big Skoronski, he's just going to be a big, solid offensive tackle at number 11. He was very solid. I reckon, no, I'm not going to guess. TCU, I'm going to say. That's maybe where he come from, but we'll see. We'll see. As far as players they've kept or lost, they released their big centre, Ben Jones, and their edge rusher, Bud Dupree. That's an interesting one for me, Bud Dupree. He's an older player, but he was a real locker room kind of guy and kept a standard, I guess. So it would be interesting to see if they can replace him. They didn't re-sign too many, which I think is going to be interesting, but they did bring in a couple from free agency. Aziz Al-Shazir, Andre Dillon, and Daniel Brunskill. Oh, and Sean Murphy Bunting from the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's another big in. So they've kind of, I don't know, I don't know who their QB is going to be going forward, but they've really shored up their defense as much as you can, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time for them going forward. Karts, can you move it over to Danny for me?
Well, quickly before we do you see Levis as a starter yet?
So on that,
Stop, Thomas.
So
Go,
just
Danny.
on that, I reckon Tannehill's time at the Titans is probably going to end this year. So if he doesn't perform well in the first couple of games of the season, I would not be surprised if they just turn to Will Levis to have to have him go from that QB2 to step up to QB1 and actually see what he can do. Because if you lose the first 5 or 6 games under Tannehill, I think they've made it relatively public that he's not coming back next year anyway. So they're going to be leaning more towards Will Levis. So why not see what he can do? Why not give him the opportunity?
Well, and the potential to maybe free up some cap space there too as well, Danny boy.
Absolutely. So like if they can move on from him and go straight to Will Levis, it's kind of like, especially if you're losing games. If you're losing games, it's a little bit of a no-brainer. Like you've drafted Will Levis, you got him luckily in the second round. Like everything just kind of fell your way. So why not give him a crack?
Yeah, no.
If you're not going forward with Tannehill anyway.
Yeah. Cut him, save the money, save the cap space, move on.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead, Danny boy.
Yeah, all right. This is tougher than I thought with Tmac not being able to hear me, but anyway, we'll carry on. So their opening game is against the Saints in New Orleans. So that could be a quite close matchup, to be honest with you, because you're going against Derek Carr, the new QB there, and a couple of notable ones. Their schedule's not really fantastic for them. They've got a couple of tough games in there. They've got the Chargers, which were pretty decent last year, Browns, Bengals, Ravens, and the Dolphins, as well as playing, all the division twice. And one of those games, their last game, which is super notable, is they're playing the Jags again. So if this division does end up being as tight and as close as what it was last year, we could be having another game to see who actually goes through into the playoffs, which is huge.
Yeah, it feels like it's a pretty tight sort of division, potentially between maybe those two, but again, like you said, we'll touch on later. But there's a few interesting games in there for them for sure. You're back, Tommy.
I am, and I can see Danny. So let's fingers crossed that I've fixed my little bug. No, I couldn't see, couldn't hear. It was very, very interesting going through the one person. But you did well for that 5 minutes. Where are we up to? What have we landed at?
We are moving on to the Indianapolis Colts and going to talk about their season. So this is the second half of our.
Oh, well done. I have it here. So the second half of our preview is brought to you by the lads at American Connection with a K. I've got it all here so I can read it off the back of their card. AmericanConnection.com.au or at American Connection on Instagram. Again, good supporters of us. 10% as well at checkout with the code any given Sunday. We've done well to keep the same code for everything, which is neat. Smart by us.
Just jump from website to website to website, all three. 10% off, you're laughing.
10% off. And they're great for the on-field gear, especially.
Correct.
We spoke to the boys a few weeks ago and they were real. Ben, he was a cracker. But it's another one to go back and listen to.
And we did see some of the lads at the search. They were rocking some American Connection gear, which is huge to know that the Australian market is out there.
AK in the wild.
People are buying the gear, and we saw them rocking it, which is huge for us, huge for them, and it's just good to see. And by the sounds of it, Tmac, you can hear me, which is fantastic.
Okay, and we're back, baby.
Oh, we're back. Look at this. This is going to be seamless.
So let's blame school holidays. That's what I'm blaming.
Yeah, the internet on the school holidays is always tough. So the Colts finished the year with a 4-12-1 record. So that draw, remind me, Macca, was that round one?
Yeah, against Houston.
That's right. Yeah. So early doors round one draw. So kind of set the tone for the year for them, really.
It really did.
Pretty disappointing year for the Colts. But I think the biggest disappointment came from their O-line. Their O-line was meant to be pretty elite and just underperformed all year. So they had Matt Ryan as their quarterback. They've had the revolving door of quarterbacks, as we all know, since Andrew Luck retired earlier than I guess what people were expecting in 2019. And Matty Ryan, he's a bit older. He's I don't want to guess and say his age, but he's on the older side as a QB.
He's older than you. I can tell you that much.
Well, he could still be quite young then. But he was just taking far too many hits and getting banged up. The O-line just wasn't doing their job, and then didn't help as well that Jonathan Taylor got injured. I think missed 6 games. He's obviously a huge part of their offense. They struggled so much so that Frank Reich, head coach, got fired, and they brought in former player, and it was kind of controversial at the time because he didn't have any coaching experience, Jeff Saturday. They went on to win his first game, so the what do we call it? The new coach's boost?
New coach bump.
And then proceeded to go on a 7-game losing streak. So the new coach bump was very short-lived. It was just the one, and then went on
it was a very sharp
losing streak. And then, as we know, Jeff Saturday didn't get the gig for next year. I'm having a brain fart. I can't remember
He's going to be a rookie head coach. He's come from the Eagles.
Don't bring it up. It's a part of my ins. It's a part of my ins.
All right, we'll save it for your ins. That's good. But
Eagles
all in all,
coordinator.
pretty disappointing year for the Colts.
Some shit team, I'm sure.
What's that?
Just a bit of Eagles banter.
Oh, okay. Cool. All in all, pretty disappointing year for the Colts.
Yeah, especially when they were number 1 or number 2 on the AFC side to actually make it to the playoffs. Like, they were short price favourites on that side.
And then a couple of notable games from that year too, I should mention. They gave up 33 points to the Cowboys in one quarter in week 12 or 13, and then the next week they blew a 33-point halftime lead
to the Vikings.
The Vikings. So it was over the stretch of a couple of weeks there. So it was pretty tough times at the Colts there.
It was
33 points. So that's kind of over the 2 games. It's interesting.
Yeah, it was like you said. I reckon that was straight after their new coach bump. They had a very new coach.
Yeah, you're right. It was. They won the game. They're on a bit of a high, and then that happened. It was like,
bang.
Welcome back to reality.
Yes, very much Jeff Saturday. But so, like I said, a couple of big ins. Their biggest in, Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator from your Philly Eagles. And a lot of people have liked this due to the fact that they've gone ahead and at number 4, they brought in Anthony Richardson, a very similar player to Yalen. That's kind of the comparisons they've put. The other 2 top 3 picks they had cornerback Julius Brents at number 44 and wide receiver Josh Downs with number 79. So I had one very high and then not so much after that. But unfortunately for Matt Ryan, it did lead to him being cut. They've brought in Gardner Minshew, though, who was also at the Eagles at the time. So it's a very Eagles flavour, which be good for at least they've got some continuity in that kind of way. But I don't see Anthony Richardson starting straight away. I think Gardner Minshew will be the man, which would be good for him. But similar to who we were talking about last week, that had a nice, group around Anthony Richardson to let him build and flourish. You might see him in the back end of the year really show his talents. Some other notable ins, kicker Matt Gay, huge, big in. You give me nothing there, boys. Isaiah McKenzie from the Bills, he's a wide receiver. He was a second, third stringer, or probably third or fourth stringer. He'll come in. He'll be a number 2. He'll be a nice, just adding to that depth chart for Gardner. Because they actually have a pretty good wide receiver core. It's just they haven't really strung a few together. But yeah, maybe if the QB doesn't get knocked around so much, he might be able to actually throw them the ball, which will be handy. They've also re-signed, like you said, the O-line, Carter O'Donnell. They had the most expensive O-line in the league, so very much underperformed. But they've also re-signed one of them, so they've just kept their O-line being very well paid. Cornerback Tony Brown and wide receiver Ashton Dulin. They did lose Stephen Gilmore, who's gone to the Cowboys, which that's a pretty big hit in the backfield. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But some big ins: Richardson, Steichen, and Gardner Minshew, I reckon, are the 3 big ins.
Yeah, so Gardner's huge because a lot of people have said, and I said this last year as well, a lot of people have said Minshew probably could lead his own team if someone gave him the opportunity to. And he did play well for that game at his first game that he filled in for Philly.
Cowboys.
Against the Cowboys, threw a very horrible late interception. But prior to that, he absolutely, he competed. So it would be very interesting to see if he actually does start. I've heard from my people, my whispers, that Richardson's actually thrown a fair few interceptions.
Okay.
In the early preseason sort of training. So they're also saying he didn't necessarily have that many reps in college as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether they do exactly what you're saying and, have Gardner start. And then once Richardson, kind of gets his feet a little bit more settled on the ground in the NFL, then he starts to, really take over that team.
Yeah,
and then when he does
talk about drafting Richardson based on his ceiling, not where he's at right now. So that would make a lot of sense.
And that also makes sense with bringing in Shane Steichen because he did help mold Jalen Hurts into who he was.
Yeah.
So if you have him, the whole idea is that he will be able to do the same thing with Richardson.
Yeah, with a similar player.
A couple of other notable outs, which we haven't spoken about, is a couple of naughty boys when it comes to the gambling side of things. It was the cornerback, Isaiah Rodgers Sr., out indefinitely. He was actually probably one of the worst because he was betting on games that he was actually playing in.
Ooh.
So who knows when he's coming.
Over under rushing, I believe.
Yeah. So how well he's going to perform, and they looked at his betting history. He used to put $100 bet or $200 bet, and the games that he was playing in, he was dropping thousands.
Ooh,
so it's not a very good look for him.
Definitely indefinitely for a long time.
Well, because you look at Calvin Ridley, he was gone for the whole season, but he also wasn't betting on games he was playing in, and he was injured, and he was at home.
Very different, isn't it? Yeah.
Isaiah's done.
It's probably more so teams weren't scared to take him or, a bit unsure to take him because, what are you betting? You're betting on your own team. Are you betting against your team? It's
especially, did it come out, Danny, what he actually, he done multiple bets, didn't he? So, imagine saying, I'm going to go, he picked the overs for rushing and he's on the defensive side. You're like, hang on a minute, what are you doing?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's fully coming out, but I think it was, over and unders on rushing and being a quarterback, probably not something you want to be betting on. Also, the defensive end, Rashad Berry, he's also been waived and suspended indefinitely. So both waived, both suspended indefinitely for betting. I think Berry's wasn't quite as bad, quite as severe, but he'll be definitely gone for the whole year.
Yeah, definitely. Danny Boy, do you have their first game? Their schedule?
I sure do. It's weird having you throw that to me. It's exciting.
You did well. Maybe you should just keep going with it.
Yeah.
There's been some chat on the socials.
Fire team.
There'll be a new hashtag soon.
As we spoke about when we've gone through the Jags schedule, opening game is against the Jags. It will be played in Indianapolis. I reckon that's going to be a very interesting game. I reckon the Jags are probably going to take them. Some other notable games that they've got, they're going to be playing the Ravens, Rams, Browns, Saints, Patriots, Bengals, Falcons, and Raiders. So it's a more easier schedule. And I think the way they do the schedule is it's more favourable for the teams with losing.
Yes, sir.
Losing in the previous season. So
also, just to give you a bit of clarity there, when they line them up, the fourth-rate team will play the fourth-ranked team in the other one. So that's how it's meant to be easier.
Yeah, we should dropping knowledge bombs left, right, and centre. Maybe we can't fire him after all.
I'll just be number 3.
Yeah, so,
specials.
Yeah, so they do have an easier schedule, but also not a heap of consistency. Didn't play that well last year, and then with the cornerback and the defensive end being waived for gambling, and then they're picking up other cornerbacks to replace him. So I really don't know if the continuity is going to be there for him.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if this will reflect in my over-unders.
Maybe so.
Mm. Last but not least, Cards.
Last but not least, we have the other dumpster fire of the NFL last year, the Houston Texans. Let's call a spade. They had a terrible year as well.
Get a mop to clean up that water, Danny. Spat it out everywhere. Continue on, you're doing great.
They finished the year with a record of 3-13-1. Obviously, we talked about that draw with the Colts in round 1 last year. Just didn't get any better after that, really. They had their second new coach in 2 years, Lovey Smith, at the helm for the year. He did a great job of tanking him all the way down and getting those good picks. But
Hey, no one in the NFL tanks.
no, they definitely don't tank.
They shit the bed, really, because they won their last game.
I know they blew the number one pick.
They lost the number one pick,
winning their last game. But I don't know, not much to talk about really.
I think there's a lot more to talk about in the ins and the outs.
I don't exactly. I don't want to steal the lead from you, but they went up against Deshaun for the first time since he went to the Browns, and he picked him apart. Well, no, didn't pick him apart, but he took care of it. The Browns won that one, didn't they?
Yeah. From memory. He copped a lot of stick though. Probably rightly so.
Yeah, they showed him, but yeah. Look, mate. Other than that,
all right, I'll get into my ins and outs.
I think more to talk about the ins and outs. I think.
Especially at the draft. I remember us talking about this draft, going, "Holy shit!" At least they did. Like you said, they were a dumpster fire, but they made some moves. Number 2, CJ Stroud, and then they moved up with the Falcons, I believe, to number 3 to get the edge rusher Will Anderson. So a lot of the talk beforehand was, are they going to take a QB or the edge? And they got them both. So huge moves by them. So they've, not settled, but, helped their defense and then obviously massively helped their offense. And their third pick was a big center. I just wanted to say this guy's name. Juice Scruggs. His name is Juice. What a ripper name to start with. He went at number 61. So I like a good low center pick as well, because they almost have to be just as smart as a QB and picking up things. As you see with the likes of Jason Kelsey at the Eagles, he does just as much as Yalen does. I'd imagine with tape as well, he'd be doing quite a bit. So I love that pick as well for them. And they've gone out and signed quite a few free agents. So Case Keenum, the QB, I reckon last time I saw him, he might have been at the Eagles. Was that another one you've lost? He's definitely been there before. But anyway, Noah Brown, a wide receiver, running back Mike Boone, the tight end Dalton Schultz, big one from the Cowboys. So I reckon he definitely comes in and is their number 1 tight end. Just a nice receiver or tight end receiver, because he is a good catching tight end for CJ Stroud, because we imagine he's going to be starting straight up, as well as Robert Woods, who coming off a couple of injury-prone seasons at the Rams, but I think he could be quite he might even go somewhere else after that. Titans, I reckon. But he could be big in them in a developing team. So they've gone out, they've got the weapons they need, both on the offense and the defense. So maybe not quite the dumpster fire they were last year, Cats.
Hopefully. And big one you didn't talk about was the coach.
D'Amico Ryans.
Damn, I have it written down. I didn't even say
it.
D'Amico Ryans?
Yes.
Former linebacker for the Texans, which is huge. And obviously that's when he
got
his couple of Pro Bowls, was when he was playing for the Texans. So I think it's huge having that come in. Hopefully to bring in a bit of winning culture and just, create a good atmosphere in that locker room.
Yeah.
He was
absolutely.
at DC, is that right, Macca?
At San Fran, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, DC, yep.
Yeah, which they've had a huge train of DCs and OCs going out and being successful elsewhere. So fingers crossed for the Texans that this can follow suit.
You want to see him pick it up and have a better year.
Yeah, and I reckon a lot of that does fall on CJ Stroud's shoulder, being picked number 2. All eyes are going to be on you. Like any quarterback that goes in the first round, everyone's going to be
he's the taller of the two.
Yeah, and
bigger hands.
And the one with the much poorer academic side of it. What was it?
That's right. Was that CJ Stroud the one they couldn't work out why he had such a low score?
Yeah. And people were talking about he was actually going to drop in the draft because of it. Anyway, he did. He was number 2.
He dropped number 2.
Yeah.
During lying season, wasn't it that he wasn't a good bloke in the locker room? And
no one came to his birthday.
No,
For those that have seen draft day now.
That was draft day. Although, Kevin Costner, the GM of the Texans, Kevin Costner would be proud because of the moves that he did make on the actual draft day itself.
And he's never lied to me, Kevin Costner.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. So I reckon a lot does fall on CJ Stroud's shoulder, but the same people that were whispering rumors in my ear have him whispering rumors once again, and he was looking incredible apparently in his at the OTA. So he's doing very well. So I feel like he will start and hopefully go on to win a few games. Speaking of the games, though, their schedule, their opening game is against the Ravens. That one's going to be a bit tough. And the Ravens as well at Baltimore. And Lamar Jackson's going to come out. He's going to be hungry. And then OJ Beckham Jr. There's going to be a lot of people with a lot of things to prove in that game and very offensive heavy. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Texans actually shape up against that. Probably a tough game to have as your opening one. Other notable mentions that they've got to play the Bengals, Broncos, Jets, and Browns in there. I reckon the Colts have probably got a slightly easier schedule, but if the Texans can do what they need to do and win a couple of games, as to be at the early stages, then they might have a chance. Very small chance, but they might have a chance.
They did to their credit, they did play some better football to the later half of towards the end of the season last year. So hopefully trending up for the Texans fans.
And realistically, any more than 3 wins is trending up. So yeah, that's right.
That's all right.
Let's get on to the division. How do you want to run it, Danny? You've got the odds and the unders overs. I've picked the unders overs. Well, you boys are picking the unders overs. I've picked how I think they're actually going to go, and then we'll discuss. Looking at it now, of what you've said, it's going to be a very interesting discussion. Which team do you want to start with?
Which I can't wait for. Yeah, let's start with that, and then we'll go to the division.
That'll come from that, I think. Good idea.
I reckon so. So let's hit me first with the Texans. What do you think? Their record's going to be?
I went through it. I think it's going to be another tough year, but I do think they have a little bit of a bump. There was a couple of games I wasn't quite sure, but I went 5-12, so they do win a few more. But I still think 5-12. It's a better 5-12 than the 3-13 or whatever it was. Obviously,
3-13-1.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I reckon they're going to win more games than they did last year, but having that rookie QB, having a lot of changes, you got changes from top to bottom. It's going to take you some time to build some continuity and actually get some wins under your belt. So I think the 5 is pretty good. The over under is actually 6.5. So if you take the over, you're getting $2.10, under $1.70. I am definitely punching that unders.
Yeah, I am taking the under.
But it could be one that they might be able to stick up in there. So you never know. But I think about that 5-game mark would be about right. Yeah,
and I'm on board with you. So
this is the interesting one. Colts. I've been doing a bit of reading, and I'm a bit more maybe on the Gardner train than most, and maybe with a couple of their ins. I think they're actually going to go a bit better than what people think. I reckon they come back. A healthy Jonathan Taylor is huge, and just that wide receiver core. I reckon if they can short their shit out, Gardner Minshew, like you said, he looked good, and I've always kind of liked Gardner and the Minshew mania that he brings. So I've got them at 11-6. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. There was a lot of games. I was no. Especially that is it. I think it's them that play the Jags round 1. I reckon they beat the Jags round 1 at home. That's my big start.
Oof.
That big call. Hopefully you put your money where your mouth is for that one. Their over under is actually also 6.5, which I thought that was too low. You've skyrocketed past it.
You've gone way past. I'll tentatively take the over.
Yeah, I'm with cards here because, if we really don't know, obviously we're all massive fans of Minshew mania, as all three have said it now in the past minute. But as good as Minshew is, it's still going to be a new system. I guess maybe not for him because it is going to be under Shane Steichen, which I think between him and having a similar quarterback to what Jalen was in Anthony Richardson, I think it's going to be they're going to have the ability to mold into the future. But whether I don't think they're in 11 games with a new head coach, 2 new quarterbacks as your QB1 and your QB2, and you think they're going to go on to win 11 games in the first season together? Nah, bro, no way.
I was very generous with their games, but to give a little bit of context, I think the Browns are going to suck this year, so there's a couple of win there. There was another couple of teams. One we haven't. Oh, the Texans. I reckon they beat the Texans a couple of times. I reckon they do beat, maybe not away, but at home they'll get the Jags. So just a couple of games, I was like, oh. So if I was up in the air, I kind of lean towards winning.
You've also got the Raiders as well.
Yeah,
like
that was part of the win. I actually did give them the win because I think the Raiders is at Indianapolis.
And yeah, it is.
And the Bucks as well.
Bucks.
They're going to suck this year as well. So there's almost 6 wins without going too much into it. So
without going too deep.
Oh, as a betting man that I am, I'm definitely hitting the overs at 6.5. I think that's fair. I think they probably will win 7 games.
See, I think they have the Broncos as well. Like I reckon the Broncos are going to not as good as what. Oh yeah, nah.
You don't think Russell Wilson's going to have a comeback here?
Nah. Russ is back. Russ is back.
No.
I reckon Russ will come back.
Next, we're going to finish with the Jags. So we'll go to the Titans next.
Correct.
I want to finish with the Jags because they'll be the most easy to talk about and fun to talk about. The Titans, I reckon they're going to struggle this year. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Will it be Levis? Is it Malik Willis? Are they going to bring in another one? Who knows? So I reckon they're just, as much as we like Mike Vrabel and he can get a team up and about, I have them at 4-13.
Big danger for them too. Yeah. If something was to happen to Henry, like touch wood that nothing does, but geez, there's so much trouble without him. So they're so reliant on him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just been shocked by it, but the over-under is actually at 7.5.
Yeah, I reckon they'll suck.
Give me that under.
Yeah, I'm shocked because they're also second favourite in the division as well, and like a little bit heavier, which we'll get to after this. So yeah, I was shocked when I saw the 7.5. I really don't think it's going to be their year to do that. So I'm hitting the unders.
So that wasn't as shocking as I thought it was going to be. But then, like you said, Derrick Henry, he could he could turn 4 or 5 games by himself. So that's the unknown that's getting me.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, but he can get him 4 or 5 games. Which is he really going to get him 8?
No,
realistically,
not with it. It's just too much QB dramas. Yeah,
too much for one man.
And lucky last, the Jaguares. I have the Jaguares at 12-5 to win the division. Big year for Trevor Lawrence, and just a lot of games. It was just too easy to go. Yep, that's a win. That's a win. That's a win. That's a win. I think early on they have an actually pretty tough start. Well, I've said they've lost the Colts, and then I reckon they got Kansas. I remember week 3. I can't remember, but I reckon it was a win. Then they got Buffalo. So
tough. Giving a bit of a wet sail.
Yeah, but then at the end it was literally bang, 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 bang. But that's Titans twice in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's also the way they love to play. They love to lose a couple and then get a little bit of fire in their belly. But you are right. Second week's Chiefs. Week 4 is the Bills. Then you play the Colts again.
So I reckon they got that one.
At home, so I'll probably take that one. And then, but after their bye week, they got the 49ers.
Yeah, that was a loss.
On who's in. Yeah, who's their QB at that time, and then got the Bengals in there as well, and the Ravens.
But I reckon the Ravens are down there.
So they're probably
yeah, so I gave them as a W there.
In December. Yeah, it'll be a tight game. It'll be a good game.
But 12-5, I've got them winning the division.
Yeah, so their over under is only at 9.5, and they won 9 games last year. So I think they're going to definitely improve on that 9 games. I reckon that 10's probably about right. To be honest, between 10 and 11.
Yeah, give me that over, please, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm also taking the over.
And the division odds.
So then we move on to the division odds. The Texans are paying $10 to take it out. Very juicy, very unlikely. Colts
money.
Colts at $6.25. It's a tough pill to swallow, even at $6.25. But I think if that was closer to 10, maybe have a look at it. And then Titans at $4.85. Now, like unless the bookies know something we don't, I ain't touching that.
Yeah, because they had Ryan Tannehill last year, didn't they?
I would flip the Titans and the Colts.
Yeah,
they had Ryan Tannehill last year. Just didn't close out the season.
Way more consistent than what they've got. And I don't know. I don't see.
I'm flipping Titans and Colts. I've got Colts coming second in the division.
So do I at 11-6.
And then Jags are $1.50.
Yep. You sure do.
And then you got the Jags at $1.57, which are very, very clear favourites for this one.
Mm-hmm. I reckon the Colts might be a little bit of a juicy one to get onto. I might put my money where my mouth is on.
Yeah, the Colts at $6.25 is probably the juiciest one of them all.
But I think we all agree that the Jags
definitely where
technically second year for Trevor under a good head coach. We all see them growing as a team and taking that next step. I think not quite the elite echelon, but maybe the one after. Beautiful.
Yeah, and they were
and they won a playoff game. It was
last year,
maybe their first playoff game. I did see a stat. Funnily enough, the Texans have never won a playoff game.
Oh, I've actually got some questions without notice.
What a perfect way to finish. So let's finish with those.
Let's hit it. Yeah,
Ooh, hang on.
Like it's a nice little bit of trivia, and it's always fun to watch you.
No. You're fine. Quick enough. Oh no, it's on.
You
preview.
keep filling, Danny.
Time for questions without notice.
Yeah, that was almost smooth for you. That's huge. Yeah, just a couple of other things to note: that the Colts, Texans, and Titans all drafted, as we spoke about, all drafted quarterbacks of the future this summer.
2 new coaches as well. 2 new head coaches.
Actually, that's where I was at. Yeah. All right. So we are going to talk about the AFC South titles.
Ooh.
And we'll start from the bottom and we'll go up. So like who's won the least and how many have they won? And then we'll go through them.
Carts, you want to take this one, mate, or is this for me?
Least is going to be the Texans.
I reckon the least would be the Jags.
Jags.
Yep, the Jags. And
see, this one's only been since 2002. Two of them.
Yeah, two is correct. Yep. Next, third.
The Texans?
No.
Oh.
The Titans is correct.
Texans.
Then the Texans
4.
with 5 or 6.
Next,
and then the Colts
6,
with
correct.
Peyton Manning with the rest.
The Colts with Peyton Manning, yeah.
yeah, which is 9. And then only one team has won a Super Bowl.
Peyton Manning.
Colts.
And so the Texans have never won one, and the Jags won their first. Texans have never won a playoff, and the Jags won their first this year.
Game. Yeah. Yeah, and the Titans haven't gone to the Super Bowl either.
I don't think so.
No. So the Colts are the only team in the division that have actually gone to the Super Bowl, and they've won one.
Good little stats
Been
to
twice,
finish.
Though. They lost. They've been twice. Who'd they lose to?
They've been twice, and they lost.
Yeah.
Brady?
They did, because Pat McAfee talks about that.
Did they lose to Brady in the
one.
Pay?
No. They're in the same division. They can't go to the Super Bowl and play them.
Didn't they?
They lost.
I don't know.
Sorry, go on.
Denver?
Saints?
The Saints.
Sure. Let's go with that. Let's run with that one.
I'm pretty sure. Well, that's what I've got written.
Alrighty, that is us for the week. Cardi picked it last week, so Danny, who are we doing next week? Off the top of your head, bang, go now.
The NFC North, because I can't wait to speak about your Packers.
Cardi, you're going to pick the Lions this time, or the winning records. So maybe it should have been me. 17 and a zip, 16 and a zip.
Nah.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the NFC North consists of Tmac's unfortunate Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, Detroit
Chicago
Lions,
Bears,
and
yep.
the Bears,
All right.
Chicago Bears. So I think it's a good transition of where we've gone to where we're going. You know, we've gone south,
that
we might
probably
go north,
yeah.
and they carry
Finish off with the beasts of the East. Alrighty, boys, well done. As always, get around us on the YouTube, on the Instagram. I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to paddle out for a second. So Instagram is anygivensunday.au. Twitter, I appreciate Danny writing it on his name. He's Danny Webb, AGSAU. Tim Cardi, AGSAU. I'm at Tmac, AGSAU. And we're at AGSAU Podcast, I believe. Are we? Wrong?
Are we getting on threads?
I've heard about this. What are the threads?
It's Meta. Meta's new platform.
Okay.
Maybe like Twitter.
You can find us on Threads at any given Sunday. But yes, make sure you on the YouTube. Give us a rating. Give us a like. Ratings on all the Spotifys.
Not just any rating.
5-star
Not just any
rating.
rating.
Tell your
5
friends, your
stars.
family, and your NFC North friend, because we're going to be talking about them next week. Or the AFC South, because we spoke about them.
Oh, your NFL Academy coach.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
TikTok, Facebook, Any Given Sunday Australia.
Also, throw us a like, comment, have a chat to us. We banter. If you tell us that
Give Tmac some more feedback.
Yeah. If you tell us we're Australian and we don't know the
Yeah.
sport, well,
Make sure you
give us a listen
comment
and then
on
tell us.
our latest
After that.
post about my 1.05 getting a punt off. That was elite. And the punt went straight. Doesn't look like it in the video, but it went straight. I can tell you that much. It
It
was straight over his head.
It
did go straight. It went about 4 meters, but it went straight.
That's what it is.
I can't wait for the 40-yard video to come out. We'll see how.
I started off slow. I'm sticking to it.
No.
I did.
No excuses.
Anyway, next year we're all doing it properly and having a genuine crack. We've got 12 months to train for that.
All right.
No.
And as always, go the Raiders.
Yes,
I've already
what a way to
cut
end.
that out.
That's
Sorry.
huge.